What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardwood Convos podcast. I am Brock Bierman alongside with Hunter Rose and Dawson Livingston. We'll see if Chase joins us a little later in the stream. Us being 18 and 22, 23-year-olds, life is just crazy, so who knows what he's doing right now. I know Hunter is dealing with a little bug as well while we're live streaming. I am going off of basically 3 hours of sleep. I highly recommend that you guys don't get into a fandom of something that requires you to get up at 2:30 in the morning to watch a live event. I did that yesterday before working a doubleheader in men's and women's college basketball, and your boy's struggling a little bit, to say the least.
Sounds thrilling. My goodness.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, you wake up at 2:30 for a show that starts at 3 a.m. and then you watch the show and it absolutely sucks, and then you realize, oh, now I have to go to work and try to stay awake, because I don't think I got home until like 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10, because doubleheader in basketball. So the second game I was struggling to stay awake, and when the technical director, you gotta make sure that you stay awake, especially when you're about to do the juicy wiggle. But anyways, we'll get back into this podcast. Of course, as you can tell by the title, we've had some interesting developments in the league just in the past few days, even with the All-Star break behind us. One of those, of course, is the news of Trae Young being hurt, and I think he's going to have surgery on it. I'll pull up more stuff for a graphic here as we get into it more. But for a team like Atlanta that needs a star player to be able to stay healthy as they are fighting for a playoff position, this is the worst time, especially right after the All-Star break, because the All-Star break, the whole purpose is to kind of be more laid back and relax a little bit. And now Trae Young's going to have to get surgery. What were your guys' thoughts on this? And where do you see Atlanta going from here?
Yeah, I thought it was tough. I mean, when I think literally the post after I saw the Shams tweet about him being hurt, I think the next post was just out of chance. It was about the Hawks and the classic, 500 win percentage over the last however many years. So that was hilarious.
Their last 1,500 games are 750 and 750.
It's crazy. That's just crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough break, man. I'm not a Hawks hater by any means. So I'm not cheering on their downfall. I'll always be grateful to them for, beating the 76ers, so we didn't have to, being the Bucks, before the conference finals. But yeah, it's gonna be weird because I mean, DeJounte is great and all. He had that little stint, especially leading up to the trade deadline, of playing really, really well. It's going to be, I mean, he's got no other all-star teammates. Who are they going to go to now? It's going to be tough, but I think they still have I guess I don't know. It's going to be hard. That 500 win percentage is going to tank over the next 4 weeks, but.
Yeah, I agree. The Hawks are kind of in a weird position. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're the last playing team right now for the East, or around that area, and they're not really looking for the future. They don't have a whole lot of flexible contracts. They have the DeAndre Hunter contract, which is looking like an overpay more and more. That Trae Young's getting paid $30 million. DeJounte, I think his extension's getting ready to kick in after this season. They got another couple other guys on contracts. So this is kind of the team they're going to have to roll with unless they decide to, blow everything up and trade people. But I don't know. This is a team that went pretty much all in last offseason when they tried to trade for DeJounte Murray. It was successful at first. Last year didn't really end the way they wanted it to. But I think overall, yeah, obviously this sucks for the Hawks, sucks for Hawks fans, and even Trae Young. Who knows if they'll be able to stay in that play-in spot, but I don't really see them staying at that 10 spot. I think they're going to drop to 11 or 12.
Yeah, I honestly now don't see them making the playoffs with this this new recent developments of Trae Young being out. Part of me is starting to wonder if because 4 weeks, how many weeks until the playoffs? Is it 8 weeks or so? I could be wrong. But the playoffs are coming close. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, and I'll give my thoughts as well on the future of the Atlanta Hawks, because they have some star players. They have some players that could really help out a team that's looking for one more piece, depending on their situation for a championship contention. I think we could be seeing the final days of Trae Young playing for Atlanta. I really do. I know Dawson and I during the trade deadline mentioned that there's a possibility that he could get traded this offseason. One place that both Dawson and I think that DeJounte Murray or Trae Young would do really well in, and Dawson, you can correct me if I'm wrong if you didn't agree with me on this, but San Antonio, just because him and having Wemby, good Lord, I cannot speak today. Talk about not being able to speak because you didn't get enough sleep, but having Wemby and a point guard that can shoot as well as distribute the ball like Trae Young or a pure point guard like DeJounte Murray would help San Antonio greatly and get them back on the map of potentially contending for a championship in the next couple of years. But what are your guys' thoughts? I think Atlanta needs to blow up in order for them to ever get back to potentially contending for a team. Not that they were ever contending. They made the conference finals that one year, but again, it shows that sometimes those are flukes, and that happened to be a fluke for the Atlanta Hawks in the wrong way.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't know if I'm all in on the blow it up. I definitely think it's possible. I wouldn't put it outside of the Hawks to do that by any means. But yeah, especially like I know another team like the classic, Clutch Sports, Lakers, could see him ended up there, which should make me not unhappy. I'd be happy for my friend Chase. I don't know where I would be at with that. I think it'd be kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, you have Okongwu is one of the few guys, Onyeka Okongwu, one of the few guys like I respect as a Giannis defender, does a really good job, young guy for them. So I definitely, but not a huge scorer. And outside of that, yeah, all their guys are getting older. Like Trae Young's already 25. It's like that's getting to the age you're an old man. You're an old man at this point, Like he's getting into his
on a
peak.
rebuilding team for that.
Mm-hmm. So it's like I think it's definitely make or break right now. I would agree with you on that, where it's like you have to blow it up or you have to go all in, and there's not going to be much in between or room for error. And especially Eastern Conference now that is bolstered at the top of who's there, it's going to be tough to get anything to make a push for that.
Yeah, I agree. I just real quick when you guys were talking, I looked up what their cap situation's looking like for like the offseason. It looks like they're 20 million over for this year and next year. And a lot of those contracts aren't, like I said earlier, they're not very flexible. It's not like they have anyone on great contracts. Trae Young's getting ready to get 40, I think. DeJounte's getting ready to make 30. And the Onyeka Okongwu contract, I believe, is going to kick in soon, or he will sign an extension this offseason. But I don't know. We've seen teams that have blown up their entire team after some disappointing years. We saw what Utah did 2 years ago. And then we all see what the Bulls do constantly, where they just mediocrity is what they love doing. So I think you could go either way if you're a Hawks fan. Best case scenario, I think, is if you're able to still stay in this play-in range, and then when Trae Young gets back, I mean, Trae Young, we've seen what he's done in the playoffs. He's a very dangerous player. He destroyed the Knicks that one series. I don't know. I feel like that's best case scenario if you're a Hawks fan right now.
And real quick, shout out to Drake Wonder. He was one of the guys that commented on our reactions to the trade deadline, and he mentioned I think it was Trae Young to the Spurs. And with how young the Spurs are, why don't they try to go after DeJounte Murray or Trae Young? They have the cap, I'm pretty sure. I again, don't quote me on that, but they probably have the room with how many rookies that they have or young talent that are on early contracts. They can take the 40 hit from Trae Young or something like that, and it could propel them from being a rebuilding team, because let's be honest, right now, I don't think outside of Wemby there is anybody on that team that I'm like, oh yes, they can be a legit threat in the future. That's just my personal opinion on their roster right now. But you add Trae Young or DeJounte Murray, and I think those two players, either one of them could elevate that team to another level, potentially could lead to free agents or other players wanting to come play for San Antonio, because Popovich is already a popular coach to play for. So if I'm San Antonio, I make a call to Atlanta and see if you can get DeJounte or Trae Young. Yeah. And I know that DeJounte played for San Antonio, but still, I think it's a good move, because at the time when he moved to Atlanta, it made sense. Now it doesn't make as much sense to stay in Atlanta because Atlanta's stuck.
Imagine you're a point guard and you have statistically worst defender in the league, Trae Young, guarding you, and then you go past him, and there's a freaking giraffe standing right in front of you.
It makes sense.
That'd be tough. That'd be tough.
Like, if I'm San Antonio, and I guess, who would you guys rather have? If you're San Antonio right now, would you rather trade for DeJounte or Trae Young?
Trae Young.
Trae? Okay. Then we don't even need to dive into that.
Yeah.
I will say this. I'll throw this team out there. I don't know how realistic and how feasible this is, but watching this team, I feel like they're a point guard away from being like really special, and they have the assets to go get a Trae Young. Why don't the Orlando Magic call up the Hawks, say, hey, let's throw you Anthony Black, maybe Jalen Suggs, 2 or 3 first-round picks. Let's get this deal done. And that way your core is Trae Young, Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and other guys like that. I feel like you could make a legitimate run in the next year or two if you're the Orlando Magic.
I like that.
That'd be good.
Hunter, do you have any destinations that you want to see? If Trae Young, let's stick on the Trae Young situation. If he would to move on or get traded this year, is there any team outside of the Bucks that you would like to see Trae Young
on? And I don't know. I think the funniest possible one is a Trae Young and Jalen Brunson trade. That would be hilarious. That would not happen, but
like to New. So you're saying you want him on the Knicks after everything that he did to New York? That would be amazing.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know where else, because I think definitely my favorite would be the Spurs. Yeah, like I said, like I don't know. Trae, like I said, statistically worst defender. It's like Trae Young, obviously, like defense isn't, absolutely everything, especially when you're Trae Young and you are in college and have your own scoreboard. Like you can get things done. So I think it's definitely tough to throw out teams. I love that Magic one though. I didn't think about that. I think especially because they just have like so many guards in general that they could just package up and send them out, and then
they have
still
a bunch
have
of
people.
Yeah, they just have a bunch of young players who like aren't really playing for them in their rotation. Why not consolidate some of your assets and go get a guy like Trae Young and really capitalize your window when Banchero's still on his rookie deal and Wagner's still on his rookie deal?
That's a great idea. Like, if the Orlando Magic are able to do that, I will say I would be hesitant to see that actually happening because aren't they in the same division? Not that they wouldn't trade interdivision. Not that divisions matter in the NBA. We can do a whole episode about that. But like, I bet you there are certain teams that will probably refuse to trade other assets to other teams given their location and probably how many times they play with each other each year or against each other each year. Real quick, I do want to mention this comment that was left by a fellow member of the 515 podcast network family. Max Olson on Twitter gave us a little comment, and he asked us, at this moment, who's the ideal first round matchup for your favorite team?
That's a troll comment from coming from a Heat fan. I don't want to address this.
And okay, Hunter, I want to address this Heat thing because I don't know if you watched our 515 pod that I had with Max this week. He asked me, he was like, I listened to your guys' episode on the Hardwood Convos last week, and all you guys did was flame the Miami Heat. And he wanted to know why everybody hates the Miami Heat. And if they're on the level of the Lakers, Cowboys, Packers, other teams in other leagues where people just absolutely hate them for whatever reason. My reason is valid because I'm a Celtics fan, and what the Miami Heat have put me through mentally over the years is like, I got to go to therapy for that, man. Just when we thought getting rid of LeBron would be a reason to celebrate, then they developed this Heat culture of whatever. But before we answer his question, Hunter, I need your opinion. Why do you hate the Miami Heat?
2020 bubble. This last year's playoffs. Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson. The list keeps going. Like you're just annoying. It's just like the Heat culture thing for this. Okay, throwback to trade deadline. The funniest thing I saw was, how they have like their city uni like for the in-season tournament and then like the season courts. Someone, because the Heat have their absolutely atrocious like whole list in the pain of like the it's the nastiest team, like all this stuff. Someone added the scariest and the terriest after that trade, and I was like, that's perfect. They need to add that. But no, that's my reasoning for the Heat hate.
Just
and
a
also
list of annoying players.
List of annoying players, annoying playoff moments. Pat Riley, I'm not a fan of. So there you go. And Twitter. Everyone that's a Heat fan on Twitter is the worst. Least favorite fan base by far. That includes the Lakers. Like they're rivals right there. And the Heat still get on my nerves more.
As a Celtics fan, I agree. The Lakers are probably close. I think for me, it's probably first because Celtics, Lakers, obviously, but no, Miami Heat on Twitter for sure, definitely up there as some of the worst, most toxic fan bases. But getting back to the question again that Max proposed us, who's the ideal first round matchup for your favorite team? I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to play Miami. If they somehow drop to that 8 seed, because it seems like the Celtics are probably gonna lock up that first seed soon, if not in the near future. I don't want to play in Miami. So when looking at the play-in, give me the Hawks at this point, because you know what, matchup-wise, they did a pretty good job handling the Hawks last year in the playoffs, and I think they could do it again. And you mentioned Trae Young is not a good defender, and he would be matching up against two guards that can score on the offensive end. Of course, I haven't dealt with playoff Drew Holiday yet, so we'll see what I mean by two point guards that can score.
You can score on Trae.
But they can defend him too. So if you're going to stop a shooter, him and Derek White can stop Trae Young pretty consistently. And on the offensive end, they can probably give Derek White a lot of ISOs actually, because Trae Young can't defend. So that would probably be who I would have as ideal. But given the new injury situation and the fact that Trae Young's probably out for the next 4 weeks, who knows where they're going to be. So I guess my second pick would probably either be Brooklyn, who would probably jump into that 10 spot, or maybe even Toronto. Like I wouldn't want to play Miami. Chicago, I'm not afraid of them. I'm more or less on the lines of the fact that their players have playoff experience that may frighten me a little bit versus the other teams. Orlando Magic could be a fun matchup versus the Celtics, but I'm not gonna lie, I would probably want to take Atlanta if it was given the current standings right now. And I mean, you guys are in an interesting situation when you have to decide who your ideal pick is, because you guys aren't guaranteed a play-in team really for a first round matchup. So I guess, would you guys rather play Indiana, or would you guys rather play a play-in team?
Oh, play-in team for sure. Chicago's number one. Speaking as a Cavs fan, it's easily Chicago. I look at like Orlando, low-key scares me. The amount of like lengthy wing defenders that they have that they can throw at both of the guards that Cleveland has is terrifying. Because all it takes is one or two bad games from the backcourt, and Cleveland could be down 0-2 in a series to Orlando. When it comes to Indiana, dude, they score way too many points, and it gets really scary really fast. I know playoffs is different. Like, scoring usually goes down in the playoffs. But I don't really want to play an Indiana Pacer team that is dropping 130 points a game or whatever. It's easily going to be Chicago for me, just because I know because they're in the same division. They play each other 4 times a year. They have a pretty good idea of how to match up and how to really play the Bulls compared to a different team in the East.
You don't want to play a team that averages 124 points a game, but also gives up 122. Come on.
No, because Cleveland will have their nights where they go 30% from the floor and have 8 threes total. And it's like, what are we doing? We're scoring 80 points against the freaking Philadelphia 76ers.
I think the Pacers could be a very scary team, depending on who they match up with, just because I get that they're young and they don't have the playoff experience, but they can put up points. And if for some reason someone has an off shooting night, that's a recipe for success for the Indiana Pacers. Hunter, who do you want to play? Indiana or playoff play-in team? And then if a play-in team, who would you want to play?
Well, here I come with my big fat mouth, and I am not scared of the Indiana Pacers. I am not scared at all. No, I definitely agree. I think they can be dangerous for sure. But I mean, especially for my team, we already have a vendetta against the Pacers. All right. It's like, please give me them.
The storyline
and it's like,
would be great.
Exactly. And then, they may have the highest scoring offense. Guess what's the second highest scoring offense? Overall, at least. That's gone down since Doc Rivers. But similarly, our defense has skyrocketed with Doc Rivers. And so I think I wouldn't mind that. For a play-in team, I would agree, though. Bulls don't really scare me. Already been there, done that, 2022. Now, my last team, this isn't a first-round matchup. I'd be surprised if this were a first-round matchup. I am not scared of the New York Knicks at all. Hand them over. All right. Giannis owns Madison Square Garden. He owns it. Name in the rafters for him. Shines
He's
out
Reggie
there,
Miller. Reggie Miller,
Right.
but he's got a championship. The only
Exactly.
difference.
He's plus. Knicks are 1-5 since their podcast started. Not a coincidence. But then lastly, I'll dig into this more later. The New York Knicks against teams that are 500 and above, 12-21. Gross. Absolutely
That's not good.
disgusting. They just beat up on the bad teams. So I think, I'm really not scared. Plus, it's like, they're missing a star player, Julius Randle. He makes the team worse. I'm sorry. I'm a Julius Randle hater. He literally makes the team worse. He complains. He moans. He just, like, what does he do? Just saying.
I love it. What was the stat again on teams over 500?
Over 500, they're 12-21.
All right, Dawson.
Funny enough.
Plug your ears. It's like the Iowa Hawkeyes in the Big Ten West.
Yeah. R.I.P. the West, baby. R.I.P.
Wait. Is that what you got on right now?
R.I.P.
gosh.
the West.
That's incredible.
Look at that.
Dude.
Oh, that is
greatest
great.
shirt. Greatest shirt ever
great.
right here.
That is amazing. I might need to get that shirt. Dude, you got to send me that link to that shirt. I'm not even joking.
Oh, I got you.
That is amazing.
That's
I need one of those.
That's good.
I know we're a basketball podcast, but that may be one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. But that's crazy. I didn't know that the Knicks are struggling that bad against teams over 500. And you know what? I was going to talk about this game, but like last night proved that when they lost to the Celtics. And
that's rough. There are 2 total teams in the East. There's one that is 500 now. There are only 2 total teams that have a winning record against teams that are 500 and above. The Celtics and the Bucks. Sorry, Dawson.
It's all right. I know my team's gonna get bounced round 1 again and losing 5 to the Knicks.
Not as bad as other
lights
teams.
weren't too bright.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god. I swear, if we get matched up against the Knicks again, bro, you're not gonna see me on the pod for a little bit. If the same thing happens.
If you guys win, if you guys get the 2 seed and you guys match up against the Miami Heat, dude, I'm not gonna lie.
Just join the circle.
Yeah, dude. Hopefully because of the injuries, Miami can slip up into that 6th spot because Joel Embiid's still out too. Maybe the Sixers could fall into a play-in spot, and I'd play the Sixers. I'm not gonna lie in the first round, but the odds of them falling all the way to an 8 seed, if that happens, that Sixers team's in big trouble this offseason. But no, that pretty much we got from Trae Young all the way to talking about who we do and don't want to play in the first round with our favorite teams. We almost forgot to talk about not necessarily a record because no one's actually hit it before, but LeBron is less than 100 points away from hitting 40,000 career points scored in the NBA. And no player has ever done that in NBA history. Do I think some players could have gotten closer if their careers would have went differently? Like Jordan being out for 2 years, not saying that he would have ever scored 40,000, but he probably would have more than 32. And Kobe, if he never got hurt all those times towards the end of his career, yeah, I think so. But nobody was ever going to reach 40, I think, except for LeBron. And LeBron is probably going to hit that here in the next week or two. I know we have Dawson, who's probably the biggest LeBron supporter in this podcast, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on the accomplishment for LeBron James and where does it put him at. I know that you guys probably all think that he's the GOAT, but I want to get your guys' opinions either way.
I'll let the Cavs man himself start.
All righty. I think it's a great accomplishment. I mean, I don't think we're going to see. Looking at the league now, there's probably only one guy that I think has a realistic chance of getting that. I think Luka is probably the only player in the league that I would even consider saying that he could hit 40,000 points. But no, it's a great accomplishment. Like I said, it's going to be cool to see like at the end of his career, like how many points he actually racks up. Could he get to 42,000 by the end of his career? And how many more years does he end up playing? Where does he go this offseason? He is an unrestricted free agent, which people aren't really talking about. He could very easily leave the Lakers.
Do you think he's leaving?
I think he's going to try to go wherever Bronny goes, if it's not like an awful situation.
I can't wait to have our podcast episode in the offseason or towards the offseason talking about whether or not Bronny should be draft eligible. But continue. Sorry.
Well, no, the last little thought is when LeBron signs back with Cleveland and they draft Bronny and we win the title next year, I mean, I'm going to do laps around the entire University of Iowa. I'm just going to be hooting and hollering.
Oh my gosh. If that happens, that's my nightmare, because that definitely means that there's a good chance that we go through LeBron again in the playoffs. And I tell you what, like my dream scenario as a Celtics fan is to play LeBron in the finals and actually win. Because like all the years that he put us through misery and eliminating us from the playoffs, finally to play them in the finals would have been so sweet. Thank God we didn't play them in the bubble finals, because I know for sure we weren't going to win that one, because we could barely beat the freaking Raptors team led by Kyle Lowry without Kawhi Leonard. So, but no, it's a great accomplishment. I can't really comment on who I think the greatest player of all time is, because I do have a little bias, but at the same time, my GOAT played for the rival as well. So it's not Jordan, and it's a great accomplishment for him. Like Dawson said, I'm excited to see actually where it finishes up when he retires, because I could see him play another 4 or 5 years, depending on the situation and what team he's playing for, and if Bronny's actually contributing or if he's overseas for the Shanghai Sharks in the year or two. But 40K, never thought I would ever see that. Honestly, at one point, didn't think I would ever see Kareem's record get broken, and a lot of people thought that as well. But the best part about records is records are meant to be broken, and LeBron did it, and he's doing it, and then some. We'll see where it ends up. But Hunter, what are your reactions to 40K officially, finally being hit at some point in the next week or two?
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, for me, there's always a hard conversation of like who's, my top two is always, Jordan and Bron. Then Bron passed Kareem, and for me, like that was it for me. It's like, all right, this settles it in my mind anymore. But I think, yeah, like you said, like records are meant to be broken. I honestly, very similarly, have no idea who could break it or will break it, if anybody ever. Honestly, the other one that's crazy is the whole like consecutive games with 10 plus points extended again today. I think Richard Jefferson said something about like he's got like more games in a row of that than I had like in my career or something along those lines, which is just wild to think about. But yeah, I mean, the King, my glorious honey bunny King, finally gonna hit it. It'll be great.
You're just hoping that they draft Bronny, aren't you?
That'd be pretty sick. But honestly, give him to the Cavs. Give him the Cavs.
Yes,
I want to see Giannis and Bron in the playoffs finally against each other.
Yes.
I want to see it.
I don't want to see
the world wants to see LeBron back on the Cavs.
Yeah.
Screw the Lakers. Everyone wants him back on the Cavs. The storylines, bro.
You better hope
scriptwriters.
Hunter, you better hope that Pat Riley doesn't make a trade.
That's another. I will say this: the only other team I could see legitimately getting Bron is Miami.
Dude,
I'm throwing it out there.
I'm trying to. I don't know where I would rather him be, Miami or Cleveland, because like I hated him both. Like I have respect for what he did in his career. I just do not like the guy because he has done nothing but bring me sadness. And but I still have him in my top 3. now is he in my top 2? That's for a different podcast episode, which I can get in deep if we want to do that later. But no, he's had an amazing career. He's going to continue having that amazing career. And who knows, maybe he will move up in that top 2 when all is said and done. But with his career coming close to an end, it begs the question. A lot of people have been talking about this recently, and honestly, it's starting to bug me a little bit about how much people are really caring about having this idea of a face of a league. But who is, in your opinion, someone that people should be watching out for to be potentially the next face of the league? Because I can get on a soapbox. I don't think the NBA needs to have a face of the league to succeed after LeBron leaves. The last 2 generations, 3 generations, because I think Kobe at one point was the face of the league as well. Yeah. The last 3 generations had a face of the league of Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. Years before that, they kind of had more rivalries with Bird and Magic. I don't think this current generation of the NBA, with how social media is and with how easy it is to access things, you don't need to have one face of the league. You can have multiple all-stars and multiple names that are on the same level, battling each other out for an MVP, battling each other out for championships, and battling to be that guy. I think it could be a future in the league where every other week someone could be considered the face of the league. I don't think the NBA needs to have a face of the league. But what are your guys' opinions on that? And if so, if you believe that the NBA needs or will have a single person that is the face of the league, who do you think that will be?
Yeah, I can start it off. Real quick on that, I feel like the issue I have with it is everyone's trying to force someone as the next face of the league.
That's
feel
what
like
it feels like.
And what's happened over the last, like you said, 3 generations, it hasn't been forced. It's been organic the way it's been kind of someone passing the torch off. We had Jordan to Kobe, like you said, and then Kobe to LeBron. And I think the second part of it too is LeBron wanted to be the face of the league. I think Kobe Bryant wanted to be the face of the league. Jordan wanted to be the face. The next star also has to want it as well. So for me, that doesn't include a guy like Jokic. It doesn't include a guy like Luka, although I think he could be one of the better players in the league. I could see it like Giannis as a possibility just because I feel like Giannis really takes the game very seriously. There's a couple other options like Ant-Man, but that one's being way too forced. Shea, I think, needs to be in the discussion for what he's doing for OKC. But I also feel like in order to be the face of the league, you gotta have to be in kind of a bigger market. So maybe being an OKC kind of hurts him and kind of hinders his chances. But that's kind of my overall thoughts.
The thing with Giannis is, like you mentioned, that he takes the game seriously. The cool thing about him is he takes the game so seriously while at the same time having a sense of humor about it. Because that guy can have a terrible game but still make a joke out of it. But in reality, it actually does affect him mentally. You can see it for sure. The difference between him and Jokic is like Jokic just kind of like he just said last year, job is finished. I can go home now. He like, not that he doesn't care about the game, because I do think he cares about the game. But at the same time, I don't think he has as big of a passion for it as players like Giannis, as players like Shea, as players like Tatum. I think Tatum should be up there as well because he cares a lot about the NBA, cares a lot about being a face of the league, if there's such thing as being the single face of the league. Of course, a lot of that has to do with being a huge fan of Kobe Bryant. And I know a lot of people meme him for that, which, I mean, he deserves it sometimes. The text message memes when he was in the finals were classics. But either way, Tatum's someone, I guess, if I'm going to have to throw a name out there that could be the face of the league, that people need to consider, because I think he's got that mentality that the others in the previous generations, like Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe, have, where they will do anything to be the number one guy and to get his team to the championship.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, it's hard to put one on there, like one face out there, is there's just so much talent in the league now. Like back then, it's
I think this is the most talented league in, like, right now,
100%.
Okay.
Easily.
And I
100%.
completely agree. And that's why I don't think there needs to be a face. But continue. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. But yeah, it's like, I mean, there's the whole, I don't go as far as like, the jokes of like, oh, Jordan played against plumbers and electricians. Like that's not true. But I think, yeah, it's like you throw like Trae Mann, for example, new Hornets legend, Trae Mann in the league like 50 years ago. That man is in the GOAT conversation. But I think, yeah, I mean, there is Jason Tatum. He's still 18 years old, according to most Celtics fans.
No, that's what's scary, dude. Okay, real quick. I didn't mean to interrupt you again, but I gotta just mention this. The people that do that with the Celtics roster, I'm like, no, these guys are actually getting pretty old. They're in their primes right now, and they have not won one championship. This scares the crap out of me, and no one's gonna mention how they are getting a year older as each year without a championship goes by.
Nah, he's still 19, bro.
No,
It's
and I hate that people keep saying, "Oh, this Celtics roster is young; they've got years to go." I'm like, no, they don't. Not with how this NBA goes.
I remember when I once said that, and now Giannis is almost 30. It's tough.
Oh my God, he's almost 30. That's was that 15, 14? What draft class was that?
I think 14.
We weren't
Yeah,
even in high school.
It was the same as Vic.
Holy crap, we weren't even in high school, dude. That's not cool.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think another
continue,
one. I think another one too. Like it's too early to tell. Obviously, Wemby's so special though. Like he's special.
Isn't he statistically having a better rookie year than LeBron?
He might.
I think someone posted something about that. Not saying that he's on LeBron's level yet. It's just something to keep an eye on.
That's what you said. Clip this right now. Wembanyama is better than LeBron James.
We heard it.
And then everybody would look at my profile and be like, "Oh, he's a Celtics fan. Makes sense."
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. Like when I think of like guys who are really younger, it's like I think Wemby might be the top of the list just because of how young he is. But again, it's just hard. I mean, you have friggin' Paul George highlight tapes going viral. I have no idea if we're gonna be talking about Paul George 50 years from now. But it's like we might have a bunch of Paul George-like players, like Brandon Miller, for example, that are special, one-of-a-kind players. Do not need to be the face of the league, though, because there doesn't need to be one.
I'm interested because they did that NBA 75th anniversary team last year, right? Last year was the 75th anniversary. It was that or 2 years ago? 2 years ago? Okay. I'm interested. Hopefully I can live that long. I'm not saying that I won't. But God has plans. I want to see the 100th anniversary team with how talented the NBA is right now. There's going to be a lot of players both in this generation that's going to get left off the list. There's going to be also players that were on the list for the 75th anniversary that are going to get taken off without any consideration. Because
do they take players off though? I thought that once you're on the list, you're just on the list. I think they only add 25 at a time.
That's really dumb then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think they changed the list because they still had on the top 75, they still had the guys from like the original top 25 or top 50 back in the 1950s and 60s.
Ooh, that's really dumb then. Thank you for bringing that up because like I didn't even consider that. And now that makes that whole list irrelevant and I don't ever want to see it again. So now I don't want to live.
Yeah, because a bunch of male plumbers are on that list.
Yeah.
30 of them.
There it is. There's the plumber comment.
Well, hey, I'll be the one that says it. Okay, I'm sorry. Basketball before 1980, mailman and plumbers. Sorry, it is. Sorry,
act like they couldn't do anything else. I bet you Bob Cousy could have made a mean pizza at a pizzeria. Y'all just calling them plumbers and mailmen. There's no other jobs.
Nope.
No, but now I don't want to. Forget my comment about the 100-year anniversary team. Well, now actually staying on that, now I'm interested to see what players from this generation will get left off because they don't change that list. And I think I can understand why they don't change that list because it's like, why forget history? It will make people forget about the 60s and 50s and all that. But like Dawson said, some of these people probably looked like they could have been, fixing the leak in your in the bathroom of your house or whatever, or delivering you milk as a milkman. or something like that back when they used to deliver that stuff. But I'm interested to see if there will be a face. I know, like you guys mentioned, Anthony Edwards has been mentioned a lot. I'm worried about him being talked about a lot this year because it seems like the media is kind of trying to shove it down our throats, and it's going to make him look like a villain almost at one point because people get tired of the media talking about certain players. Dawson, you know it firsthand as a Chiefs fan that people don't like talking about Patrick Mahomes. You also know it as one of the biggest LeBron fans that I know that
Yes,
Sports
sir.
Center talks about LeBron a lot. So
What's
a
the
lot
LeBron
of
stat of the day?
but a lot of people do like to hate players that are talked about a lot in the media, unfortunately. And Anthony Edwards could potentially be that guy. Or if he, knock on wood that he doesn't, because he's a freaking stud. He does have the potential to be an absolute beast MVP candidate. But if something happens and he just falls off, he's going to be the next Derrick Rose of this generation. And that's what I don't want to see because, like you guys mentioned, he has something that not many people have or bring to the table in the NBA. Another thing I wanted to talk about today, and not necessarily on our title of our show or whatever, but Steve Kerr got an extension with the Golden State Warriors. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. What do you guys? And I think we've talked about this before. Where are you guys at in the standpoint of this dynasty with the Warriors? Do you think that it's still in the realm of potentially contending for a title over the next couple of years? Or, and given Dawson's head shake, has the ship already sailed and they're kind of right now just enjoying the last couple that's great, Dawson, last couple of years together? Because I don't think they'll ever trade Curry. Everybody else I think they would consider trading, unfortunately. And but what are your guys' thoughts on this extension and what does it mean for the Golden State Warriors in the future?
All right, I'll start it off. I made the comment. People saw it. The ship has sailed. That's not me being a Warriors hater, even though I don't like the Warriors. I just think when you look at this roster, I just don't really think outside of Steph they have that many great players. Andrew Wiggins has regressed to I don't even know what anymore. He's like unwatchable sometimes, unplayable sometimes. Draymond, he's still a pretty productive player for him, but he doesn't really contribute much when it comes to scoring. Clay is throwing tantrums on the bench. Kuminga is probably one of the brighter spots in their team. And their rookie Brandon, oh my god, Pods. I'm not going to say his full. Yeah, I'm not going to say his full last name because I'm just going to butcher it. But they do have like some young players. Now, if they make a major trade in the offseason, might change my thoughts. If I know LeBron keeps saying it, but he's like, oh, if there's one guy I want to play with, it's Steph Curry. If that happens, then it's a different argument. But I think at this point, I think the Warriors are just doing a service to Curry that once his contract's up, I think they align with Steve Kerr. So I think that there's 2 more years of this whole Curry with the Warriors. And then after that, who knows? But I do think that the ship has sailed for this team competing for titles.
Yeah, I think overall I agree. I think this year, like if they get hot at the right time, Curry's Curry, right?
That's what happened in 2022.
Mm-hmm. But I do agree. I think overall, though, I think it's kind of like past its time at this point. Everyone's past their prime. It's tough to see. I think the interesting thing that I think Kerr does a good job of, at least that'll be helpful in 2 years, is that he does play the young guys, like you said, Kuminga, guys like Moses Moody. At the same time, there's been stories of them being like unhappy about like how things have happened and things like that. So I could see like other players, like you said, Draymond, Clay, like if they're not meshing well, it's gonna be really weird to see like who do they move on from first. Like, are they gonna appeal more to like trying to keep the dynasty team together and keeping the quote unquote big 3, if you can call it that, together, or are they gonna plan more for that future and more for we need to like leave our team in a good place before we go on? But so yeah, I think overall definitely it sailed, but it's definitely hard to say until I think we give it a few weeks and be like, all right, once again, this team's either like on a 8-game win streak or they've lost their last 10. Like, where are they going to be at coming into March and April?
The thing that sucks about having such a good dynasty that the Warriors have had and good run is that it's hard to get rid of the players that helped get you to that point. The problem is, though, is you want to keep winning. And as the months and the days and months and years go on, Curry, I think, will always be up there in the conversations of all-star players, no matter whenever he's playing. But as I mentioned, the days, the months, the years go by. The capital that you can get from Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are going to continue to be smaller and less valuable the longer they are on your roster. And if this Warriors team wants to make a move or wants to say, yes, we are still legit contending for a championship, I think this offseason, if they don't make that run like they've done before, where they do make the finals or win a championship with a team that no one's really hyping up this year, you got to consider making moves and getting rid of Klay, getting rid of Draymond, getting rid of Wiggins. I don't know what you can get for Wiggins now, but getting rid of those guys and trying to see if you can build something out of nothing right now. Because really, if they don't win the title this year, and again, I'm not saying that they're supposed to be contending for a title this year. They are kind of with nothing except for Curry, and they're not going to trade Curry. I forgot that they were fortunate enough to have a down year because of Curry's injury and got the second pick in 2020. Just imagine if they would have had that first pick and would have gotten Anthony Edwards, or they still would have taken James Wiseman, because that would have been something that you could have looked back on as like, oof, that was a swing and a miss. Or, ooh, what if they would have gotten that first? LaMelo Ball is up there. Like, no, yeah, I guess there's some key names. Killian Hayes. I'm completely kidding, but no, just this Warriors team, I don't think is contending for a championship this year. They have good players. It's just all of them except for one is really past their prime. And even Curry is not the Curry that we're used to, like MVP Curry. He's not at the highest level, but he hasn't taken a huge dip where it's like, oh, it's not Curry that we know.
He's still a top 10 player.
Yes, that's perfectly well said. But yeah, I'm interested to see if, do you guys think Kerr will continue coaching after Curry's gone?
I don't think so. I think that it's going to be a tough sell if you're the Warriors to go up to Kerr and said, hey, we're either Steph is moving on or their Warriors are just blowing everything up and they're trading everyone after the 2 years. It's going to be a hard sell to be like, hey, Steve, we know you won 4 titles with us and we've had a lot of success, but we're going to have to ask you to start coaching a rebuilding team. I really don't know how Popovich was okay with that. And I know you got Wembanyama, so it's like it works out. You'll get one of the best prospects we've ever seen. But that's not a guarantee with what the Warriors are. And I know that they're financially like strapped up with cash. Like they are in cap hell right now. So trying to figure out how to get rid of those contracts is going to be tough. So I do think I could see Steve going back to ESPN or TNT when his coaching career is done.
You don't think he'll go and coach anywhere else after this?
No, I think you could pull a Doc Rivers and go on TV and then get a call in the middle of the season and say, hey, let's go coach our team. I don't think that's impossible to say.
I absolutely hate Doc Rivers as a coach.
He's
probably a great
person. Respect my basketball coach right now.
But yeah, as always, that's pretty much all we had kind of scheduled for this. We'll do another episode probably next week. I think we want to talk about the new 65 game rule. It seems like some players are a little upset by that, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. But I think that is definitely almost a full episode conversation that we could have about that. But before we go, we have our normal segment that we officially gave a name, and I'm going to see if I could. We'll see how good this sounds. If this sounds terrible, I'm going to turn it off. Let's see. Let's go with this one. There we go. Wow. So, our new segment here on the Hardwood Convos, or a segment that we just never had a name for it. Sensei Rose's Wise Words of Wisdom. and I know he's trying to keep a straight face right now, so I'll fade out the music so he can get out of the
I
mood.
love my own theme song. What is this?
But it is now time for Sensei Rose's wise words of wisdom, where he basically just goes off on anything he wants to, revolving around the NBA, on and off the court. So, Hunter Rose, also known as Sensei, what do you have for us?
Brock, that's a dangerous thing to say. You can talk about whatever I want, but I'll give you good conscience that I will. So, first off, we're throwing it back. Max, I hate your team. The Heat and the Pels got into a huge fight, and it was awesome if you're a hater of the Heat. And as a passionate Pels fan that I am, I was heated seeing this. So, obviously, there's a lot of players that got suspended after it. Jimmy Butler is a weirdo and started posting all these songs about being locked up after a 1-game suspension. Absolute weirdo activity. I think 1 game is not enough. I think they should suspend the Heat for the rest of the season and throw them in jail. In my personal and humble, unbiased opinion. And also, Jimmy Butler said, "Oh, it's that time of year again." That's absolutely corny. Don't say that. I would love for Brock to pull up all the accolades that Jimmy Butler has. Oh, wait, there aren't any besides all-star appearances and an Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Nobody cares about that. Second, Kevin Durant, known as, very thin-skinned individual at times, but I was proud of him this last week. So upon returning, there was a great game, always great. Great new rivalry between the Mavs and the Suns, right? Upon coming out on the court for warming up, Kevin Durant got called a certain derogatory term by a Mavs fan on the court side, and we saw a switch up in record time from that Mavs fan. Kevin Durant whips his head around, looks at him, and the fan goes for the Tiger Woods big dog, like put her there, Now, here's where I get proud of Katie. So, they had a little exchange of words. I don't know exactly what was said, or I'm sure is it probably appropriate to say on the podcast. But security was getting ready to kick him out. Kevin Durant was like, "Nah, they can stay." And I'm proud. I've said some things about Kevin Durant on this podcast. I'm proud of Kevin Durant for not getting him kicked out. He's like, "They can stay." That's a big boy move. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, lastly, I'm sure all of you after last week were concerned after my mental health absolute breakdown because of the Milwaukee Bucks. But here we are, and I'm a new man. Things are going better. Damian Lillard's back. Giannis is playing well. Bobby's kind of proving me wrong by making an extra pass here and there. However, I will say it was a battle. In case you missed anything about the Bucks PR in this last week, Doc Rivers, that may be my coach, but man, he needs to stop lying. If you wanna have a laugh, go on Twitter, just look up Doc Rivers and see all the things. It was like a new thing every single day about I don't know why the Bucks fired Adrian Griffin and hired me, and we should have played Joel Embiid more, and all these jokes about I told the city of Troy, don't let that horse in. It's like, bruh, we gotta calm down. Things are going better for me, as I'm sure all of you are concerned, and those are my words of wisdom.
And that was Sensei Rose's wise words of wisdom. I love that we have a theme song for this. Great job, Hunter, as always. I look forward to that every week. It's one of the highlights for sure of my week. And every week you provide something.
Gotta do my best, man.
It's great that you always provide 3 things, but each one has its own character to it, and it's perfect. But yeah, that's all we have for this week. We will be back next week, probably around the same time, live here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. But you can always listen to our recordings on our podcast apps on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We also post some of our highlights of our shows on X, Facebook, and Instagram. But basically, anywhere that you can find podcasts or reels or posts about anything content related, we're pretty much there, except for TikTok. I just don't have the verge to download TikTok again.
Get that out of here.
So we're not on TikTok, but we're on everything else, and you can find us at 515 Podcasts. But until then, we'll see you guys next week. And for Dawson Livingston, Hunter Rose, and for Chase, who is here with us in spirit right now, I'm Brock Bierman saying so long and we'll see you next week.